This conference will now be recorded.
All right, everybody, thank you for being here. It is now 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 20th, 2024, and I call this regular meeting of council to order here at the Social Scene in Victoria Beach. I respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homeland of the Anishinaabe, Cree, and Sininau Nations, Dakota, Assiniboine, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous and Métis communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you as always to Frank and the Social Scene crew for setting up the room and dismantling it when we're done. And thank you to those who are in attendance and those who will be watching our video on YouTube. Introductions around the table. I will start on my far left.
Councillor Ian Jackson, Steve Ackley,
Lon Turner, CAO.
Penny McMorris, Mayor.
Erwin Cumka, Councillor.
And I'm Graham Randall.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we will move on to the agenda. Be it resolved the agenda be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second. Somebody want to second that?
No,
Thank you.
meeting's over. Sorry.
Thank you, Erwin.
Sorry, Penny. Did we get the new business on there for the fire hall budget?
We can add it here.
You got the wrong agenda.
All right,
Yeah,
so.
I got it. We're gonna add it. Well.
All right, gentlemen, we can add a couple items to the agenda, the fire hall resolution. So that would be 7D. Is there anything else other than some correspondence items? Steve?
just a quick discussion just about a follow-up with Shelley to go over the emergency activity. So I was hoping that she could come over and have that we could ask her to come over and have a general discussion with council to go over the things that we very clearly need to work on and have to basically just how we did.
Okay, so can I add that under 8? So it'd be 8F. And 8E, there was an email that came in recently about Patricia and Scott Point erosion and drainage concerns. That's all I have.
Can I add that I mentioned to Lauren earlier in my email that there was an incident involving the doctor's office. I wanted to have a brief discussion about that.
So that's 8G, perhaps, or would you like to bring it up under the doctor's committee?
Either one.
Okay. All right, anything else, gentlemen? All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, move on to the minutes of the August 6th regular meeting of council. It's been circulated to all members. Be it resolved, the minutes of the August 6th, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second, Erwin, thank you. Any discussion, gentlemen?
As usual, I read them and they look complete to me.
Thank you. Hearing nothing further, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. We will move on to committee reports. I just received the Public Works one at about 5:30 this afternoon, so my apologies I didn't get it out to council. Door-to-door garbage pickup is 3 days a week until September 3rd. Garbage must be left on the edge of the road allowance, not in your yard. Please do not leave garbage bags out for days as it will attract bears. Public Works continues to pick up random late brush piles and bagged leaves. It is never ending. The grass and flower beds are attended to on an ongoing basis. Dead and dangerous trees are looked at and removed when possible. Public Works has a very long list of dead, diseased, or dangerous trees. Please mark any trees that you are concerned about. E-service requests are completed as quickly as possible. Water samples for Victoria Beach, Albert Beach, and the fire hall are taken regularly through the summer and submitted to the lab in Winnipeg for mandatory testing. Grading of our roads is ongoing. Water leaks are repaired as they are reported. Civic signs can be ordered through Public Works at a cost of $60, payable to the RM of Victoria Beach, for installation in the fall. Deadline for order for this year is September 8th, 2024. And Public Works emergency or after hours number is 204-756-2568. Any comments?
I just want to compliment our public works. Around 5 o'clock today, we found out we had no water in Albert Beach. Phone call was made to the emergency number, and within a half hour, water was restored. Someone had smashed the lock off the pump house main valve and turned the water off on us.
Oh,
Was that reported to the police?
That I'm unaware of.
do we have a camera up there?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Good.
Kind of a silly, stupid prank.
All right, any other comments? Thanks, Erwin. All right, I will move on to finance. Hand it over to you, Councillor Chadsey.
Just to take a look at the operating budget, property taxes, we received 2.6 million. Total revenue year to date is about 3.1 million. There's 331,000 left to receive. Total expenses is 2.3 million. Year to date budget for this year is 3.5, so there's another 1.3 that we're probably going to spend. We have a surplus of 944,000. The general operating fund is down about 650,000 from last year. Talking along about this earlier today. And that's a result, I think, of the school tax rebate that we won't be getting this year versus last year. Lastly, the liabilities are up about 1.3 million, but a lot of that is owed to the school board. That'll get paid out shortly. Our reserve fund, I got that correct, Lon, is 100,000? And cash?
Between the five or six different reserve funds, but there's 400,000 that's.
That's right,
From
yeah, there was about 5
from
or,
the general reserve that we take out.
and then cash was about 300. And that's it.
Thank you. Erwin?
Is the province not going to be paying us for the money that they deducted off individual tax invoices? Because normally that money would come to us. So,
No, we collect all the school taxes and then we pay it to the government. So when they put the rebate directly on people's property taxes this year, so we just don't collect that amount. So we're collecting a lot less money this year. It's just, we're collecting less school taxes, so there's less cash in our account.
it's a full, I understand.
Yes.
Anything else, gentlemen? Great, thanks very much, Ian. I'll move on to fire. Steve, please.
There were a total of 6 calls in for the Victoria Beach Fire Department in the month of July. 2 of the calls were in the RM of Victoria Beach. Both calls were false alarms. False alarms are more common nowadays, but the fire department would rather be there and not needed than not to be called and have been needed. So please, if you do hear something, just call in. The other 4 calls were in the arm of Alexander. Two were to assist RCMP with search for missing and injured persons. In both calls, the people were found and safe. The remaining calls were for fires. In both cases, the fires were controlled and put out. No injuries in either of the calls, but there was some property damage in one of them. The fire departments continue to maintain their equipment as needed, and the staff is also working with the newer members. And just a reminder to please continue to remove your conifers and replace them with deciduous trees.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll move on then to police, please, Erwin.
First of all, for everyone's knowledge, we lost our police board chair, Mike Bradmanich. He will be sadly missed. I am pleased to report that Liz Murray has agreed to step back in as board chair, at least on an interim basis, until such time as we can find a replacement for Mike. Tough situation. In terms of activity in July, it's fairly quiet. There were no break-ins. There were 4 arrests made, 1 for impaired driving, 3 for breach of trust orders. Summer Winds was apparently quite quiet. We had a wonderful event last Saturday, the 100th anniversary of the Victoria Beach Police. It was well attended. The Minister of Justice, Minister Matt Weave, attended, along with our local MLA, Wayne Owasco. It's good to see that kind of participation. My 3 granddaughters were absolutely thrilled. They spent about an hour sitting in the police ATV pretending to drive it around. So what was really nice was there was a good number of people showed up, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the event. Just looking briefly at the budget numbers for police, we don't get a month-by-month budget figure. So if we do a comparison of our annual budget and take 7/12 of that, looks like we might be a little bit under budget, but it's a little too soon to say. Needless to say, our expenditures appear to be under favorable control, so that's good.
Don't get too excited.
Is that everything? Is that everything?
That's it, Brian.
Any comments, John?
You forgot to mention that Penny gave a spectacular speech at that event. She captivated the audience.
No.
She did indeed.
I don't know about that, but I just provided a bit of history. Just none.
And to the credit of our police and CSOs, they did all the organizational work. So, hats off to that crew. They seem to be excited about what they're doing, and I was very pleased to be able to attend.
All right, thank you. Steve?
Yeah, just one thing, which is that somebody will be stepping into that role, but nobody can replace him.
Thank you. All right, moving on to special events, which is me. I have no special events to report on. However, I have been on a bit of a mission recently. I've been speaking to prominent community groups and coordinators of events about the importance of using our taxi cab service instead of asking for personal vehicle passes to get in, to drive into events in the VRA. I've had more complaints and comments this year from residents about too many vehicles, noticeably in the VRA. So I think if I start with the VB Club, whoever is in here that promotes and provides events, they're good leaders, they're good community-minded citizens. It's just a reminder. I'm trying to be gentle, but it would be nice if we could all just take time to realize that just one vehicle, when 20 of us are saying that, means 20 vehicles. And our cab drivers are making a living, and we are not making a living when we're hosting an event or organizing an event. So it's just something that we need to be mindful of, please. That's my rant for today, I think.
Well,
Subject to change. All right, thank you. Golf course, Steve?
So the tournament's all went really well. The gas right now is still going to be a little bit of an issue for the budget, but it's not going to blow the budget out. There's just some issues that came up with tanks at the beginning of the year. Everything with the golf course right now is going well, and all the certifications are up to date, so there's really no issues. So right now it's just sort of planning for the end of the year. And then I'm planning on doing a review with the operator at the end of the summer so that we can go over everything for next year. So it's not that there are any issues with startup, but I'd really like to get just a book of standard procedures so that this is how we do things every year. Aside from that, that's really it.
Well, and I think with Adam's first year, he's probably got notes in his head or written down somewhere, so it's just a good review at the end of the season too. Graham?
thank you for that, Steve. Can I ask that possibly in connection with your year-end review with Adam, that you ask and bring to my attention anything that's outstanding in terms of the building and the structure that could and should be done before next year?
Yep, and that's going to be all part of it, as well as sort of like just when we're going to be receiving sort of the first reports and what exactly to look at and all those types of things. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. All right, I will move on to municipal buildings. Please, Graham.
Municipal buildings. This report is thankfully getting gradually shorter as the year proceeds. In point form, we have the eaves troughs for both the pit road and the Pier Point toilets have now been installed. And these were deemed at a pretty reasonable price. These were deemed necessary because the runoff was deteriorating the gravel fill. So that's been done and that's under control. We've arranged for re-roofing and the eaves troughs of the shelter at the parking lot because it had deteriorated more so than we might have liked. So that's under control. They're going to begin work shortly after the termination of the VRA period. I've discussed the materials and the budget with them, and we'll be following that up with each trucks once again. The painting of the benches at the golf course, which was a rather large undertaking that was awarded to BB Tech, which was our friend Mike Bordmanovich. His daughter has started painting them, and she's going to carry on painting them at her own pace into September or whenever. And I've suggested that if they want to submit a progress invoice somewhere along the line, that would be in order. She's an avid painter, and she's taken this project very much to heart. So I think we're in good hands having her finish it at her own pace, and I assured her mama of our support. The village greenwashing, also known as the washing from hell. The final efficiencies, as detailed in a report of August 2nd, now under control, being done this week, even as I speak. The electric door controls, it turns out they weren't quite installed properly by the contractor, so he's received a slab, and he's coming back to fix it all up. You have to add and leave the door latch and the soap dispenser and the sink mount bracket. Curtis, our plumber, he assures me he has that under control. So we think we can see some light at the end of that tunnel, and we just hope it's not a train. And under separate cover, I'll report on the Moonlight Inn and the Prince of the Inn Committee. Drew?
Thank you, Graham. Any comments, gentlemen? Thank you. All right, moving on to the doctors. Cottage and committee, Steve, please.
Everything's been going really smoothly this year, although I am curious as to what Erwin was going to bring up. There was an issue with saline, but we were able to get some more pretty quickly. And aside from that, I haven't really heard of anything out of the ordinary. So I'm curious as to what Erwin was bringing up earlier.
Do we have any more docs or staff in there? I'm trying to think of the name of the nurses who are in there.
There is one this week.
Okay.
I can't remember as far as I know, we're loaded up until the end of the month, unless there's been some sort of change that I don't know of.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you.
I checked yesterday.
All right, Erwin, did you want to speak to your issue now, or do you?
Sure.
Okay.
There was a medical emergency occurred on the weekend. Matt Metcalf had got involved with an individual who was suffering some serious conditions. Matt phoned me to see whether or not I had the phone number for the current doctor, for which I did not. Many people may know my daughter is an emerge doc in Montreal, and she was sitting there, so I handed the phone over to her, and she was able to speak with the patient for about half an hour. And they've got things stabilized, and then they eventually found the local doctor who then took over the file. My understanding is the individual has stabilized and is out of danger. My concern is simply this. I think we need to take a look at our terms of reference for the doctors, and would it not be reasonable that they be required to file their cell phone number with our local police? Because in the event of an emergency, who are they going to call? Yes, you could call 911, but that means you could be waiting for a much longer response. The other idea that came forward from Barb Pritchard is perhaps would be a good idea, and thank you, Barb, for perhaps we should, do a bit of a reach out to our local professionals, and if we could get a list of doctors that are in residence who might be available to call only in an emergency. So, again, our response times are quite long if we're depending on people from Pine Falls or Grand Marais. So I think that, my question is, would it be reasonable for Steve and his committee to take a review of the terms of reference to see whether or not it would be reasonable to request that our doctors and our nurse practitioners file their cell phone numbers, so in an emergency, we'd be able to reach them? So that's the question I pose to your committee.
I would imagine that there'd be some privacy issues around that. The workaround, and I think probably the best thing would be a municipal cell phone. That could be active for the 2 months while there's a doctor here, so then that way they would have it, and there would be their own personal private number. The other thing too is that if you ever take a look at the calls that come into 911 that are not emergencies, then to get those types of phone calls in the middle of the night might dissuade some doctors from coming here. So that would be the only workaround that I could see. I don't think that's necessarily unreasonable. It's,
See what they say, if you don't mind, take it to your committee.
I will.
Take it back to your committee and have a talk about it. I realize there are some privacy issues which we totally respect. But your idea about a doctor's cell phone for 2 months might be a good solution.
Yes, I like that. There's quite a number of our employees have a municipal cell phone, and they are put to very, very good use. Use is quite responsible. Hopefully you could pursue that, Steve. Thank you.
The other thing I would say is that, again, it's just another example as to why everybody needs to be phoning and emailing and knocking on the door of their MLAs to get the previous government's decision eradicated so we can get our first responders back.
They are moving forward on that.
I know, but,
I know it's slow, but.
we've lost people we should,
Yes, we
as
have.
far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't have lost.
I spoke to Minister Weed on Saturday specifically about that.
All right.
I'm noticing that the hours for the doctors is 9:30 to 11:30 and 5:30 to 7:30. And I'm just wondering if you put a cell phone up there, are they just gonna get calls all day long? How do you happen? Like I had a situation this weekend, I used the doctor's office for the first time in 15 years. My grandson damaged his finger. And so I just Googled it and that number came up and I called and went there and they put a bandage on it, which was great. But I'm just wondering what the cell phone idea, I like the idea of getting one, but just, that just kind of means the doctor's on call. All night.
Take it back to the committee and have a good discussion and maybe report back to us. I mean, obviously, nothing's gonna happen this term.
I'm just thinking though, to Ian's point, is that could we not then also let the 911 operators know to phone that number? So then that way it's like, it's not, because they're going to phone the paramedics first. But in the same way that when somebody phones 911 tells them what's going on and then they phone our fire department, then we might be able to get word acts the same way. So they're phoning an ambulance to respond, but then they're the ones who make the determination, does a doctor need to be there right now? Maybe, again, I'll look into it.
Okay. And I think it might be a question for 911, for Brandon, to see what their parameters are and what we can request reasonably.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. Good discussion. All right, I'll move on to communications. Steve, do you have anything to add? No? Okay. I don't either, pardon me. All right, move on to Summer Information Office. I've touched on the vehicle passes, and it's amazing to me that some people, residents or contractors or service providers or visitors, seem to find a way in through David Road. They blame Google, I Googled it and it took me down Highway 59. So I'm not sure why Google switches things up, but it's also come to my attention that people blow right by the information office staff and refuse to stop. So we all need to be mindful that we just need to stop. We've got a vehicle regulation in place that we need to observe.
Why not put a second gate in on the other side of the information office, which would be
Because
closed?
you can't completely block traffic from coming in or getting out. People
Would
do
be
that.
open.
Pardon me?
Contractors, people wanting to drive off 59 would have to stop. The gate person would confirm that they have a legitimate permit, and then the gate would be open.
Possible?
I sense those links out again for the breakaway gates. And then the one thing we could do is on the north side of the information office, we could install like a gate where,
An arm?
yeah, exactly, where they can actually have operation of it like inside the booth. So then that way it's just really putting the actual gates up.
And signage to direct tradespeople to that side. Show your pass or have your pass ready.
Okay, thank you for the discussion.
And business licenses.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to building inspector, Graham, please.
All right, our report compliments of Curtis Baldwin, our officer in charge of public buildings. For this time around, for the month of July, we have 4 decks, 1 garage, 1 demo, 1 camp house, 1 shed, 2 developments, and 2 main dwellings that I'll allude to in a moment. The value permits for this past month were $2.4 million, $2.4 million, and the year-to-date value of permits is $4.8 million. The permit fees collected in the last month are about $8,000, and year-to-date there was 38,674. A secondary attachment, because it gave me a little bit of a thrill, was the permits detail. And we've set a new record in the month of July. We've had our first building application for a cottage of over $2 million. I think that speaks well for the beach, that people would invest that amount of money in a summer home in our community, and my compliments go up to them. So that's a little bit of a milestone for us. And that concludes the building inspection report.
All right, thank you. Ian?
I was told that there's a piece of land on Pelican Point up for sale for $700,000, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's a
I
highlight
can
also.
imagine there'd be another big house going on that once it gets sold.
All right, anything else, gentlemen, on that? All right, moving on to accessibility. Graham touched on the accessible washroom, so other than that, I don't have any comments. Trails, Steve?
Everything's been fairly quiet, unless there's been some sort of development that I don't know in the last 24 hours. There's just conversation about being able to get a winter map, which I brought a few times, but I'll keep bringing it up just so we don't forget. And then, still just general maintenance, that's about it. Again, just the one thing I want to bring up after the season's over with is that I want to get a volunteer page up on the website so we can start to get people registered with the municipality who are volunteering on the trails. Aside from that, that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Graham, would you like to update us on the Moonlight Inn, please?
Yeah, my Moonlight Inn or Friends of the Inn report is comprised principally of the project update number 7 on the Moonlight Inn, which is up on our website for everyone to see. It gives detail and photographs of all the various trades and categories of construction, fencing. The summer 24 setup has been very, very successful. It details the structural work, the exterior openings and insulation, the landscape design, which should be of interest to many of our residents, and the project renderings are on display at the job site at the end for those people who want to see what we're up to, what it's going to look like. And the feedback from these postings has been certainly very, very positive. And construction team meetings. This is a boiled down version of the Friends of the Inn Committee, the hands-on contractors doing the work at the site. They have meetings weekly and bi-weekly where they go through the myriad details of what have we got so far, what's next, who's on first, who's doing what. I've been included in the minutes of those meetings. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes on the Moonlight Inn. Suffice to say that it's going well. They are on schedule. We're still hoping to open around about the commencement of the vehicle restricting period for next summer. And our donor, bless his heart, is in with it and up for it every step of the way. So that's the Moonlight Inn report. Thank you. Any questions on it?
Thank you.
You know how to contact me.
Any comments, gentlemen? All right. That's it for our committee reports.
One more,
Pardon me.
Zach. The shoreline.
Shoreline Advisory Committee, pardon me.
As I promised Joanne, I said I would organize a meeting, and that happened on Sunday. It was kind of a meet and greet because not all of us knew each other. So it was a chance to familiarize ourselves. My colleague Chris Archer was there, thank you. And we had a good discussion about some sort of general topics about what we want to try and accomplish. We will be organizing a regular schedule of meetings starting later on in probably next month. But I think I'm pleased that we have a good balanced representation of the various beaches that communities that we have, shoreline, non-shoreline, BRA, non-BRA. In the interim period, I will chair the committee. At some point in time, the committee itself may elect someone else to chair, but in the interim period, it was agreed that I should continue on. As the council member representative, I do not have a vote, so it's kind of a natural positioning for me to think about being chair, because I can direct discussions, but I can't vote or seriously influence. But I was really pleased with the discussions that we had, and we're off to a good start. And you'll see some things happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Herman. All right, anything else I'm missing? Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, just to jump on the shoreline committee. So there's been a couple of, actually, wait, no, it's on the agenda. The invasive weeds. For what? The invasive weeds? Or was that? Okay, sorry, I thought that we were talking about that. So some people have written in saying that on King Edward and Alexandra, there is quite a bit of growth in the sand. There is. I went down and checked. If you take a look around though, the whole area, the specific weeds that are growing there are everywhere around the municipality. So it's not really up. Like earlier in the year, we seeded with tree seeds and grasses. The grasses have started up, which is exactly what we thought would happen, which is great. And the trees and the Saskatoons are probably going to be starting to grow next year because they need to overwinter. But nothing that we did was planted in front of the toe. It was all behind or inside of the actual toe. Everything that's growing in front of they're just standard weeds that have been growing all over the restricted areas. So yeah, it has nothing to do with that initiative that we did at the very beginning.
Okay, thank you. Erwin?
I can mention that that particular issue is one of the items that's on the Shoreline Advisory Committee's review list.
Thank you. And I did send council the response I got from the Clean Beaches, Manitoba Clean Beaches, to do with that, to do with the weeds and the growth on the shoreline.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you. So be it resolved to accept the monthly committee reports for July as presented. May I have a mover? Ian, thank you. Steve, second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to accounts and finances. Be it resolved, the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Checks 12551 to 12591 in the amount of $85,335.69. Credit card charges in the amount of $4,960.21 for a total of $90,295.90. May you have a mover, please? Ian, thank you. Second, Steve. Thank you. Any discussion? Ian, any comments?
Just one, the AB to BB trail, there was some work done on that to repair the trail and to install some boulders. There was invoice for $18,000. They added some A-base gravel, and I understand we received a $20,000 grant for that, so it's covered off. That's the only big number, the rest are small.
Thank you. Any further discussion, gentlemen? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Business arising from previous meetings is basically moving on to new business. So, draft zoning bylaw, 1651, first reading. Be it resolved to give zoning bylaw number 1651, first reading. May I have a mover, please? Ian, thank you. I'm going to move over this way, Steve. Second, Erwin. Discussion.
Let's just pass this thing already.
First reading, we're moving. Ian?
I really like the way it reads. I had a look at it, I guess, a week ago to add some final comments, and I think I added about 6 or 7, and I went and checked them today, and a lot of them were taken, so I'm pleased with it.
Me too. Any other comments, gentlemen?
It's now out, review it, give us your comments. There will be a formal review process.
It will be out after first reading. It will be on the website.
Yep, and, and we'll give it adequate time for the community to digest and respond and express their comments, but I think it's well done.
All right, so, did you want to speak to this in terms of the Planning Act or anything?
Just the public hearing, that's all.
Okay,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, it'll be posted on our website, we'll send out a connect message with the link in there, and then we'll schedule a public hearing, which is part of this process, and it should be early October, maybe mid, depending on everybody's date and timeline.
And
It should be in Winnipeg, and we'll have virtual login, or you can submit comments and everything beforehand, that's it.
you can always send in written comments, you can always email, and we will set it up so that you can attend virtually
When do we go to second reading?
after the public hearing, hopefully,
October.
October. Any further comments, gentlemen? I can't believe I'm saying this. All those in favor?
Aye,
Carried.
congratulations.
Congratulations, that took what?
2017.
Whoop-de-doo.
We started that process, so that's great. So slowly moving forward. Thank you, everybody. All right, up next is the appointment of our auditor. So be it resolved to appoint the Exchange Group as the auditor for the 2024 financial statements. May I have a mover? Ian, thank you. Steve, second. Thank you. This is mostly housekeeping. The auditors have done our books for a number of years. We found them to be reasonable and reliable.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Looks fine.
You're all right with this?
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Okay, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. All right, up next is the CSO agreement. whereas the RM of Torrey Beach has received a new operating agreement from Manitoba Justice for self-funded community safety officer program, which requires signatures from a quorum of council. Therefore, be it resolved to agree to waive the 90-day notice period required for a new agreement to be put in place and to agree to the terms and contents of the new operating agreement as attached. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Ian, second. Thank you. Again, this is housekeeping. We did have an original operating agreement with Justice, and they have finally updated it. Is there any more that we need to add or explain about this?
I don't think so. People are interested, call, give more information.
Okay,
Was it the, who updated it?
Manitoba Justice. The CSO program is through Manitoba Justice, and we were one of the first ones to have it, so they updated the agreement.
Yeah.
And they made some changes over the last 2 or 3 years as well to the programs.
Housekeeping on their part.
Housekeeping on their part, but without it, we kind of need the agreement in place. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. And how many of us need to sign it for you tonight?
Everyone, 4.
4 of us?
Well, it says a quorum for 3 is fine, but they have 4 slots, so.
Okay,
might as well get them.
all right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to the fire hall budget. Be it resolved to establish a preliminary budget for the construction of the new fire hall in the amount of blank dollars. So that is a discussion that we are going to have. So I guess I need a mover, please. Steve, thank you. Ian, second, thank you. And we can open the discussion.
Our CAO had put forward a memo of that regard outlining a suggested number, I believe it's 2.7 million.
It's 3.5.
But-
Not excluding the fire truck.
Well, I don't think you can exclude it. I think there's 3 expenditures, there's the fire truck, the fire hall, and the police offices. All 3 need to come in under that budget of 3.5. So that's what I put.
Okay,
So what do you want the budget for everything or for the fire hall?
Fire hall. Well, we start with the fire hall, and that's the big one, right? And the truck. So if we get the truck, well,
The budget is on for tender on the truck, though. I don't know if you have much control over that. It's gonna be,
we've got
the bids.
quotes coming.
yeah, August 30th.
So you think they'll all be the same?
I'm hoping they'll be, I mean, they're more expensive than we thought it was gonna be, just from talking to them in general.
However you want to do it.
The main obstacle we need now is to move forward on the new fire hall. And I think trying to keep things simple, let's establish a number for the new fire hall and go forward with our architect and so forth.
all right, just so to recap, we received $1,850,000 plus for a MEDEC grant, Municipal Economic Development Grant. That is to go towards both the fire hall and the fire truck. The quotes or the
And the rentals.
and the rentals. The fire truck is estimated to be between
It'll be around 9.
$900,000. So what we have left then is another 900,000 plus of the grant money, but that is not going to be enough to cover a new fire hall and renovations to the existing fire hall.
No, but part of our proposal that we submitted to the province of Manitoba, we said that we could come up with a 1.6.
Yes.
And then it's funded through current and future reserve allocations, and then slight taxation every year for extra.
So,
So in the original budget that was submitted to the government, it was, I think I had 750 for the truck. It was 2.2 to 2.5 for the fire hall construction. And then it was, the rest was for the rentals, which is around 500,000 or 600,000.
I just don't want people to think we're just throwing money, throwing a number and hoping it lands. We have done some research. So getting back to that, based on the number we did give to the province,
Lon, I don't have the email with me, but what was the number you sent over in the last day on that?
That was
I believe you said
3.5 million was the total.
total for the fire hall, the new fire hall. What was the number?
I think it was around 2.3.
2.3.
So the
I
number,
think the 3.5 is for all three expenditures. You know, 500,000 for the renovation of the police officers' offices. I think we were looking at, say, 900,000, so that would leave, I don't know, 1,200,000 for fire hall. Numbers right?
that's not gonna cover it, but
2.1 for the fire hall.
2.1 for the fire hall makes more sense, that's. We're having this discussion because we are having interviews in the next week with architecture firms in regards to the plans we currently have and how we can move forward and choose who we're going to be working with. So we need to be able to give the architects a firm number. And that is why this resolution, I believe, is on the table. So Lon, you're saying 2.3, 2.5, there's too many numbers going around.
It's 2.8 if you include the renovation.
2.8, 2.1, 2.3, 2.5. Let's pick a number.
You said 2.3 for the new fire hall, and you said 500,000 for the renovations. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, for me, like, obviously, yeah, 2.2, 5.5764, that'd be great to come in on budget. I think, honestly, I think council just try to get anywhere between 2 and 2.5. I think anything over above 2.5, I think you're gonna have to look at maybe getting debt or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you wanna go down that road. But you will have time because you have 3 years to complete this with the grant money that you've received from the province. And right now, it's collecting a lot of interest. So a lot of interest is being garnered on 1.8 million. And you're not gonna spend it, start spending it till probably a little bit with the architect.
And we also have reserves that we're going to be putting aside every year
Exactly. Let's
in
make
our
the fire hall
budgets.
2.5 for the purposes of this discussion. That's still a hypothetical number, but we've decided amongst ourselves, rightly or wrongly, that we need to have a number to tell the architects to try and stay within. That's all subject to what kind of quotes come in down the road on the entire job. So this is a hypothetical number, but it's good that we do set some type of guideline, some type of limit that we can share with the people that we'll be working with. And I can live with 2.5.
I think this is a really good idea to do this, actually, because when you do select an architect, instead of getting all the design drawings and structure drawings, and that's where most of the money is going to be spent with the architect or other supplier of the design. And then you go to tender and then you get all the quotes back where it's like $5 million or $4 million, you're like, oh, let's start over. There's a method you can take too, where you get the architect in place and then you do a bid for like a construction manager with general contractor kind of thing. Tell them what you want, what the concept is, what your budget is, and get them to bid on that.
Yep.
And then you have the architect and the construction manager working together with the construction, to develop the construction design drawings, so that they'll know pretty solidly that this is a $2.5 million build. And then you would go to tender with all the sub-trading, that sort of thing.
You've got it.
I think that's, in my head, that's really clear. I don't know if I'm helping.
That makes sense to me as well.
I think it's important that we establish a hard number. And when the actual tender results come in, if it's under, great. If it's over, we gotta go back and figure out what we're gonna do. So I think it's important that we document and have a firm budget limitation at this point.
It needs to be realistic and it needs to have some small provision for unforeseen and things like that. So I'm suggesting that we agree on 2.5.
All right, Ian?
I'm just looking at we asked the province to chip in for a fire hall, a police renovation, and a fire truck, and we said it was 3.5.
Mhm.
So if we spend 2.5 just on the fire hall and 900,000 on the truck, you're at 3.4. You've got $100,000 left for the police renovation.
Mhm.
Is that what we want to do? See, this, I'd much rather, and I do have a lot of experience with this sort of thing. If you set the number high, it's only going to go higher. There's always wiggle. I would feel much more comfortable with this around 2.2 maybe 2.3, and then let's just see what happens. But if you don't, you've got to push people to get the price down, otherwise they're going to move the price up. And all I want to see is, let's do this. 3.5 million is probably one of the biggest expenditures we've had at this RM. It's a lot of money, and I just think that we should try to stick with what we said to the province, which was 3.5. So let's just try to work with that, see if we can, and if we can't, then we'll have another discussion where we need another $200,000 or $300,000 to finish off the police office. But if we start high, I just know it's going to go higher. And that's
I agree.
that's the way the construction works.
All right,
So what's the number?
all right, Lon
I
has,
feel
Lon,
comfortable with 2.2 or 2.3, one of the two.
2.3.
The only thing I wanted to add is I've been doing, obviously, since we started this, I've been doing a lot of research and thinking. And obviously, fire protection is one of the biggest service that you can provide for everybody that lives here. I think it's one of the biggest worries for people getting cut off with that road. There's another thing to consider with this firewall, the sheer size of it. I mean, most of the equipment that's going to be in there is going to be out fighting fire. I mean, if you ever get cut off with that road, you can't drive anywhere, and say for something, you can't get to the lake and you can't get out of there. I've just read that these buildings can be built so durable that it could be a kind of a place of refuge if someone needs to go to escape the fire and they have nowhere else to go. I mean, you can, I think with, I don't know, 8,000 square feet, that's several hundred people could fit in there in an emergency. And I never really thought of that until I came across that.
Could be a muster point.
Yeah, and then, you know, I just would hate to see you cheap out on this, and then maybe not build something that you could have built, that maybe 20 years down the road, that, oh, we should have done this. This is a real big grant from the province, and it's a big project for the RM, and I think it's a real important one from what I've seen in my 2 years here.
it is, I agree. Steve, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I've just never done a process this way. Like, I'm used to a client coming to us. Back when I worked in construction, the client comes to us. We take a look as to how much we think this is going to cost. We get our estimators involved. We take a look at it. We go back to the client. We say, listen, here's your range. We can go cheaper, and this is like really like the bare bones, and we can go higher, and this is the cat-like version of it. I've never done it this way before, so I don't understand why we're putting resolution for it without, this to me doesn't make any sense. It's the way that we want to do it.
Because we're going to be interviewing architects and they need to know what kind of money we're working with.
You are gonna be doing that, what you just said, though. You're gonna go, like, how do we design this to fit our budget? Like, when you build a house, you're not gonna, you got 300,000 in your mind or 500, you're not just gonna start building it, and then, well, it's 1.2 million. You're gonna have a number that you start with, and then that's all you're doing right now. I mean, if you go a little over.
We'll deal with that, but, yeah. So I'm hearing around the table after all this good discussion, 2.2 or 2.3 or 2.5.
How about 2.25? Split the difference.
2.3.
Can we agree to 2.3?
Why wouldn't you just set it as low as you guys are comfortable with right now? And then say that this is the budget we're working in. And then if we're forced to go higher, then we're forced to go higher, and like we haven't set it, something.
This is a documentation step. Let's put a line in the sand and start with that and see what happens.
I can also dig deep for other grants that are available. I mean, this is a pretty big project, pretty important, and I think there are other grants that are available out there. And especially for the police renos too, just the nature of that build, there should be other grants available for that too. So,
All right, so 2.2. What's the consensus on 2.2? None, 1, 2. All right, 2.3. Steve, you're not weighing in on this. You have an option.
Yeah, I'm not going for this. It just.
This is the decision that you're responsible for making as an elected official.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I've never done the process this way, and I've always.
If you said 3 million.
If I gotta throw in for one, it's gonna be the lowest, because it's just, again, I've never done it this way, so.
There's always a different way to do things.
We're not signing a final contract.
We're just giving them a number.
We're documenting it, the budget process.
Well, the whole idea is to keep the architects on a short leash before we even start talking to them.
All right. Okay, I will call, be resolved to establish preliminary budget for the construction of a new fire hall in the amount of $2.2 million. All those in favor? Okay, carried. 2.2.
It's a good start.
All right, thank you for that discussion, gentlemen. And thank you, Lon, for your input. Let's move forward and get those interviews, which are all scheduled for the next 10 days or so. So thank you for doing that. All right, moving on to correspondence, information, and announcements. Fiber optic installation. Valley Fiber has reached out to the RM. I did meet with them and Public Works a couple of weeks ago in terms of moving forward with fiber optic installation in the municipality. We've had a query from one resident about the process, and I can get back to them if you like, but this started in March of 2022 when Valley Fiber first came to us. And now they're finally ready to start moving, and they will be in the community in September or October. I'm thinking it'll be a little closer to October. The RM is not on the hook for anything in terms of this installation. There will be a 12 by 14 foot building just down the highway that way, near the MTS building. They will be doing directional drilling and some other type of drilling. There will be no blasting.
Yes.
They will be working with Public Works to make sure that they don't damage our water lines or any other infrastructure. And it will be done in 3 phases. They'll be starting, the vehicle restricted area will be last because of the unique nature of the vehicle restricted area, but the other areas, Bonasing, Albert Beach, and then the North End are 2 other areas.
Did I notice on that email that they're starting at the north end of 504?
I'm not sure where they're gonna start, for sure.
I thought it said that.
It wasn't discussed.
That's a part of their phases, they said.
That's
One of their
504
phases.
north, that's, yeah. North
And
end.
the other question I had, you say drilling, are they not putting this on the poles?
No, it's directional drilling, it's underground,
Everything's going underground?
it's all underground,
How about to my house?
underground,
To my house underground?
apparently.
Good job.
I believe it's underground to your home.
They've explained, once they lay out the complete surface, that's to your back lane or back alley. They will not proceed to connect your house until you agree to sign up for the service. So there'll be no intrusion into the yard of anybody who doesn't want this system, this service.
It's completely voluntary.
And that's the idea that they're gonna go through the lanes?
Some cases they'll go through the back lane, some cases they may have to go around on a front street if you don't have a back lane.
Well, I have one that's just so forced.
Yeah, there's lots of rocks in that forest too, so, but they're in places like Pinawa, which is Canadian Shield country, so it could be some challenges, but
Well, we asked specifically and they assured us there will be no
no blast.
I don't know why I haven't thought of this up until now, but do you think that there's any way that we can at least ask them if we can look at buddying up with them to start burying our water lines or even some of the hydro lines? I mean, like, we have to do it, right? So, I mean, if they're gonna be digging everything up and tossing in their lines, then,
No,
They're not digging everything up, they're doing directional drilling.
sorry,
it's very specific to their equipment, I've seen.
like,
it done in
it's
another
just
state.
as wide as.
Directional zone, and they bring their wire through, and that's, I don't think you're gonna get a water line. And it's liability on their part.
They're not gonna mess around with our infrastructure. Yeah. So I'm sure they'll keep us in the loop. We've asked them to provide us with as much information as possible to pass along to residents. Anyone who's interested in signing up, I know my Facebook feed is being bombarded with Valley Fiber, so if you have any questions, contact Valley Fiber for their costs and their options and all that kind of thing. Forest Management Committee letter. We received a letter from a resident on behalf of another resident who we haven't heard from yet in terms of a possible forest management committee. It sounds like it might be a good idea, but until we hear from the person who's initiating it, it's just a letter.
Table it until we hear from them.
It was just for information. There's no question we need some forest management, but it's mostly dead, dying, and diseased trees that we need to manage.
I certainly would look forward to, community committee taking a hard look at this and getting the rest of the municipality excited about it. Long overdue. Look forward to some things happening. As I've said many times, we spend thousands and thousands of dollars grading our roads, and we spend no money managing our forests.
We do spend some money managing the forest, but not enough.
Trace amounts.
This year was pretty good.
And we also provide brush pickup twice a year for residents, so that's something. But we can definitely do better. Supplemental taxes will be mailed out by August 27th. And can you tell me what exactly a supplemental tax notice will be? Why would I get one, perhaps?
Yep, it's the assessment office catching up to all these inspections that Curtis is doing, that Brian was talking about earlier. So every year they cut out their market assessment or value of your property, and then it gets sent to us, and then that's what we base our mill rates off of, according to our expenditures. But in the meantime, they're constantly updating and adding in these building permits and increasing the value of different residences. So they take the difference between the assessment prior to the building permits, and they take the difference of the assessment after it. And that difference is sent to us, and then you get taxed. That's just the way the province works. Does that make sense? That's why it's called supplemental, because it comes in later in the year.
I just wanted to make sure our residents didn't all get one.
This is the tax for this year or next year?
If you go back to 2022, it's kind of retrograde to whenever the building permit was done and when it gets entered in. Like,
It's retroactive to the date of the building permit.
yeah, completion of the
Completion
work that
of
was
the
done.
project. It can take, I added on a deck and it took a year and a half for the province to catch up on it. And they asked me when I finished it, I told them, and they sent me a bill back to that date.
Right, but I thought taxes this year didn't go up for people that didn't do any additions, and the rates did go up for people that did. So I thought that was already done.
They're always 2 years behind, though. This is for new permits that been issued in the last year and a half.
That would have been on information they had. Maybe the building permits didn't get entered. I don't know.
They find you, one way or another.
Sooner or later.
If anybody has a different weighted tax, please come forward. I don't hate property taxes. You increase the value of your cottage and you get penalized for it. I've always hated that concept. Pay your fair share is what the province said. I don't know, it's my pet peeve.
So you feel better now?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. All right, I will move on to Patricia and Scott Point erosion and drainage. We received some information from residents and it's valid that they are concerned that the Scott Point entry or access is disappearing. And that's at the junction of Patricia Road and Sunset, so right near the Patricia Stairs. And if you go down there, you'll see that the water just shoots a river down there. Our roads are a lot harder than they used to be. Used to be sand and the water just used to filter into the sand. Now it just shoots down Arthur, Patricia. It takes the quickest way to the water. And it is causing erosion. And that area to access Scott Point is, I think they put a note in here, it's about 22 feet wide or so. If it goes, Scott Point will be landlocked. And it'll be very difficult to fight a fire or get in there if we don't try and do some kind of mitigating measures to stop some of the drainage, or to improve the drainage and stop some of the erosion. It might be something, Erwin, that the Shoreline Committee could have a look at. Maybe tap into Mr. Topping's knowledge.
Added it on the list.
I'm not sure it's a simple solution, but it would be a shame to lose that access to Scott Point. Steve?
I mean, one of the most important things is to fix those, I don't know what it's not growing or anything, it's just that chute of rocks that were installed the wrong way several years ago, because that is shearing away that cliff. I mean,
This is more overland.
oh, no, I know, but like you can worry about that one for sure, but the speed of erosion along the north side, along that bend there, that is going way faster than anything that's happening near the stairs. So like that, there's two problems with that access, but that one is going a lot faster than the road.
Okay, so just something, if you could put that on your Shoreline Advisory Committee radar, that would be appreciated. And okay, thank you. Steve, you wanted to talk about Shelley Napier following up with our emergency?
Yeah, like, I suppose asking her to, have a delegation of council would be great, just so she'd have maybe a public review of the emergency drill. But at the very least, I think that council should have a meeting with her, so that way we can one-on-one go over what we need to work on, and that way we can all be on the same page. Yeah, because, there's no point in having the drill unless we have a follow-up.
Could that possibly be a virtual meeting between us?
Okay.
Can you follow up with Shelley, please? Thank you. All right, I had up next the doctor's committee or the doctor's issue, but you've discussed that. All right, anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Graham, go ahead.
I have a long
Can
list.
you use the microphone, please, sir?
Oh, yeah. I have a long list of correspondence to address, but you've already dealt with all the high points. So I'll get to one that's near the top of my list. It's from the good old Wanasee Beach Cottage Owners Association. It talks about their plans to celebrate and commemorate their 70th anniversary coming up. Long story short, they're looking at applying for heritage grants. Point number one, such an application would require the endorsement from the RMVB. We've done quite a few of these, and I see no problem with us endorsing their application for the grant. It then goes on to say that they're going to be looking for up to $5,000, and they hope that the RM could match that $5,000. Now, that's a little bit bigger boulder to push up the hill that council will have to discuss. But I see no problem in, let's say before the end of this year, giving them a letter of endorsement.
Have they given you any indication of what they're planning to do?
Yeah, there was a letter that went to all councilors. Erwin, you would have received it, but probably haven't had the opportunity to read it, and it's not your fault. I'll make sure that you get another copy of this that does lay out all of the plans that they have and the tentative dates. And a lot of this boils down to what's in my father's briefcase, which I managed to find at great difficulty in one of my sheds yesterday. So the clock will start ticking from that.
Did they say what the $10,000 was for?
Signage. And a certain amount of celebratory activities. Deadline grants are January 31st and June 1st of each year. I would invite all of council to read or reread the letter that was sent to all of us by the Wanasee Beach Cottage Owners Association, so that we can decide how we want to approach it.
What's the date on that email, Graham, please?
It's dated August 15th.
I did see it come through.
Yeah, well, there was an awful lot of them this time around in terms of correspondence, and some of them were right up to the last minute before this meeting. That is annoying when you're trying to load the contents of the meeting on your laptop, and you have to redo it 10 times in the last 4 hours. We should cut it off at noon.
Well, if you look at our procedural bylaw, it's 24 hours.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
All right, anything further, gentlemen?
So there's just one thing that I forgot about when the police and fire came up. Please don't set off fireworks in Victoria Beach. There were several times over the weekend and last week, and I think I heard them last night as well. Yeah, like, we live in a very dense fire. Our fire risk is exceptionally high. I was sure as hell guilty when I was younger setting off fireworks, but parents have a responsibility, I think, just to let their children know the risk, and yeah, because it's just.
You're assuming
so many.
you're assuming it's youth setting fireworks off.
Yeah.
I haven't in years. I wanted to.
I'm
but
just
I haven't.
saying it's not just youth,
Yeah, that's true.
And
but yes, it is a
I
fireworks.
have to suggest that if, if somebody nearby or your neighbor or somebody down the street is setting off fireworks, report it immediately. Nip it in the bud.
Don't
No,
do
we do not issue fireworks permits. There's no such thing.
it.
Just don't do it.
Don't wait until the next day, because there's nothing that police can do, so just phone in right away.
All right, thank you. Anything further, gentlemen?
Just a shout out to my dear wife. Tonight is our 53rd wedding anniversary. She let me come to this meeting.
Very nice, congratulations.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing it with us.
Thank goodness she puts up with me.
Well, we weren't gonna say that, but congratulations, Earl.
Thank you.
All right, I will move on to adjourn. Be it resolved, the August 20th, 2024 regular council meeting be adjourned. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 3rd at 7 PM here at the Social Scene, number 3 Atia Road. May I move? Graham, thank you. Second, Steve. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone.